Okay, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Yes, good
There's no
evening.
lady there, right?
Yeah.
There is no
Okay,
lady here.
then good evening, gentlemen.
All right. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Good evening, sir. Before we start our interview, I would just like to give a quick introduction towards to me and my family members. My name is Anthony, and my fellow members FAHMI, SYAFIQ, MITHUN, and HILMY are UTM students who are currently pursuing an engineering course. So the purpose for this interview is basically for our assignment in graduate success attributes subject. And the whole purpose of this interview is we want to see a figure, which is you, Mr. Krishnan, on your working experience, and we hope that you can provide some insight in the field.
Sorry, I can you repeat the last sentence? I don't know why I can't hear you loudly. Should I put your mic should be louder, I think.
Okay, wait, hold on, just give me a second.
I just missed one line from just now you said.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear. Okay, very good.
All right.
Okay, the last sentence only I missed, yeah.
Yes, okay. I will just start again. We are students who are currently pursuing a course in engineering in UTM, University Technology Malaysia. And the purpose of this interview is basically for our assignment in a subject called Graduate Success Attributes. And the objective of this interview is that we want to hear your working experience and to also hope that you can provide us some insight in the field of civil engineering. All right. So before we start our questions, I just want to give a quick comment on your background. According to your resume, after you finished your industrial training in the United Kingdom in 1982, you have actually worked as a lecturer in the Federal Institute of Technology of Malaysia for 3 years. And you have worked as a lecturer in FIT at a diploma level for 3 years before actually starting your career as a civil engineer with 36 years of experience. That is actually quite a long time. And you're still going strong at the age of 65. This actually kind of inspires all of us to actually choose you as a figure to interview for today.
Thank you.
Yes, so now I shall proceed with the questions. So for the first question, during your 36 years of experience, can you give us a valuable lesson that you have learned in your career?
Okay, a valuable lesson. Actually, there is a lot of valuable lessons, but just to put it in a nutshell, I think the most important lesson is you have to be very versatile, because there is no you may be specifically a civil engineer or something, but when you actually experience the job, you must be ready for even something outside your field. So I think it's always good to be very adaptive. That's the greatest lesson probably I've learned over my lifetime. You know, you mentioned 65 years. Sorry, that's my age. Sorry, 36 years of. But I'm not wrong in saying 65, because we learn from childhood anyway, right?
Yes,
So the knowledge that we gain is never ending. And you said, you know, it's surprising I'm still working and all. And I think that's what keeps you going. You know, it's learning process and contributing to the society. These two things can go on forever. I often tell people when they say, when are you retiring? I said, when God calls me, that's the time I'll retire. So as long as you're fit, you can contribute. I think that's the most important thing to go. And the lesson to keep in mind is, don't confine yourself to anything. Even if you're working in an engineering field, the more knowledge you have, even outside the engineering field, it'll be very useful for you, and you will understand a variety of people, because any field of work, you'll always be working with a variety. Like civil engineers, we work with many engineers, mechanical, electrical engineers. We work with people who are involved in money, accountants, contract people, so many. So I think it's always good to, even you're specializing in an engineering course, the initial years of your education, the key years will be your leaving Form 5 in school and your matriculation or Form 6 equivalent, which you yourself have experienced. It is the thing that makes you a very broad person. Then only you specialize into the field of your interest, or what is, you look at the market, and, maybe that's the area you have to work in. So, it's a sky is the limit for contribution, for learning. But that's the reason you shouldn't confine yourself to your shell. The famous Malay saying, don't dalam kata di bawah tempurung. There's a whole world outside for you to learn. So that's what I have learned, and I would like to pass on to the next generation, who will be the pillars of the future. Okay, I can go on forever. You better stop me. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your meaningful answer. I shall proceed with the next question. In those 36 years of your experience, have you ever experienced something that is like a memorable challenge that you cannot forget?
Memorable challenge. Oh. Just offhand is, I have been put, like in meetings and so on. Sometimes you have to go and say, one of your department people, like M&E people, they're not there to speak for them. Sometimes you have to speak for them. So those are sometimes the challenges. I to be honest, I can't think of anything specifically memorable. I mean, there's too many memories to, but since you mentioned challenging, again, it'll be a good example to show you that it's good to know something outside your field, you see. So sometimes, you see, we don't really need to know everything about the field that you are not in. So like I said, in a meeting, sometimes I speak for the mechanical, electrical engineers, who were supposed to have come that day, but they couldn't make it. So either you take a message back to the person, but very often you may not necessarily, if you listen to the question put to you, it's a matter of, most things are quite common sense, so you should be able to just play it by the ear, so to speak, so those are challenges I've had quite often, because very often, you are put into you face things that you're not ready for, you may not have been even prepared for, but it's a matter of just explaining. I follow a simple principle. We don't try to bluff our way or show an image. We can express to if the other person is professional enough, he will understand. You can say that, I'm sorry, my colleague isn't here, but I will try my best to explain to you, and you go ahead, give it a shot. But first of all, the honesty is important. You have to be honest to yourself and to the person you're talking to, because you shouldn't give a wrong what shall I say, a false false hope to the person you are answering. Yeah? That person, either he wants to know whether it can be done or not. So if you think you can answer it, you give him your best answer, but you can always reinforce it by saying, I will also let my colleague know, and then I'll come back to you, or let him call you and explain. So basically what I'm trying to say, sorry, I couldn't think of a real memorable moment, but I'm just trying to pass on a message to your, uh, young graduate, undergraduates, who you face a lot of this kind of challenges. Doesn't mean you don't have the background. We can always find out. Right? Today, it's just a matter of touch of the Google, and you're open to a whole library of the world. So it's a matter of just seeking, and you'll sooner or later you'll come to know, and you will benefit by knowing something extra out of the field. So that's it. That basically, other memorable moments will be in civil engineering. There's a lot of engineering problems. They will always be like in my college in civil engineering, we basically deal with very large structures and so on. So we can't afford failures. You see, things shouldn't collapse. That's the gist of my industry. Yeah? So I never forget what my during my graduate course, my lecturer will always make a statement, which is quite a common statement among them. In When you're working, you always learn from other people's mistakes and never make your own. So you always try to avoid making your own mistakes, but if you do also, you learn from that. But we always observe failures. We learn from a lot of structural failures and this. So we will do some post-mortem on it and see why it went wrong, and that way we learn even better, more, because it's life experiences. So your greatest teacher is really your life experience, and which you will accumulate like I have done over the years. And still, it's never ending. I'm still learning something new every day. Okay, I think enough said on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Krishnan, with that incredible answer of memorable times during your college years. So it was very inspiring and I felt motivated. Thus, now I would like to continue with my question. So, what is the drive that motivates you to pursue this field of engineering? Would you like to share your stories and experiences?
Yes, of course. Actually, to be honest with you, I was actually interested in electronics engineering in my, school days. But again, it's not always what you like. Sometimes you have to do. So at that time, I used to go for career guidance. I used to look, ask people around. I do a lot of research before, getting into the field. And at that time, because this was in something like in the 70s and so on, where we are still a developing nation, you see. The electronic industry was just some semiconductor factories and so on. So a lot of my older people, they always said it's better to take up civil engineering because there's a lot of scope, there'll be a lot of job opportunities. So I actually kind of took a course which deep down I'm not really interested in, but when I went into it, I learned, as the field starts opening to you, it's always the unknown that puts you off. Once you come to know it well, and then you see a lot of things. So actually I grew to like civil engineering in the long run. And the question you mentioned is what keeps me the drive that goes on is this exactly what I'm doing now, to you guys. I have this thirst to, when you're enjoying something like listening to beautiful music, you want to share it with people, right? You feel you shouldn't be the only one enjoying this. So the only thing, actually, the construction industry is a very difficult industry. You have to you have to argue, you have to fight with people, all kinds of things, But the one thing that keeps me going is the fellow team that I work with, especially the younger generation, the young engineers and all. I really enjoy passing on my experiences to them, and not many people teach. Most of the seniors, they got no time even to teach, but because I enjoy it, I always say teaching is my first love. Like Mr. Anthony said, I started off as a lecturer in the field of civil engineering. I don't have time to explain to you, but I think I was purposely, because when I graduated and came, it was recession in Malaysia. So I was forced to go into teaching line. And then I realized I was there for a purpose also, because it, in 3 years of university life, how much, the knowledge is so much, you can only rush through. Most of us are exam orientated also. So I thought God purposely put me into teaching to brush up all my academics again all over. And that's when I really realized, because when you're teaching students, you have to be always one step better, because you have to be they'll ask you a lot of questions, So you always need to be seeking knowledge. I used to be, that time you don't have Google and all. I used to be using the IEM library, whatever libraries, I used to look, because technical books are difficult to get also. So the drive is to, this knowledge is so beautiful, whatever field, I think I've come to a stage I enjoy knowledge just from any field, and you want to share it with people, especially the younger generation, because they have this thirst for the knowledge. There's nobody, especially in the working field, they don't have time to train them, teach them. So I go the extra mile sometimes to put it to them in a simple form, so they can catch it very easily, and it is their appreciation that is the drive, the answer to your question, the drive that keeps me going. I'm practically choking as I'm telling you.
Thank you, Mr. Christian, for that very inspiring answer.
Okay.
A question I would like to ask you is, do you feel satisfied and happy in this field of engineering that you've been involved in for over 36 years?
Correct. Very good question, because you have given me a chance to tell the sadness in my life. Unfortunately, the world today, it's so orientated to in material, even the development, the build buildings, they build white elephants. It's all, people are making money out of this and that. Sadly, the quality of engineering standards are really deteriorating. I wouldn't say just in our country. I think it's practically a global thing. I mean, you will know it because you will see quite often in the current affairs, there are buildings collapsing. It's no joke. These were unheard of in the much earlier days, where things were very strict. They used to follow quality standards and all, by the book. Today everything is, what do you call, is compromised by, because they have this money goal, profit orientated. Generally we engineers are working for some people, and they are generally business people, you see. So sadly, the engineering we learned, like people like you, we are so idealistic. We learn with a lot of vision within us. We want to contribute. But you are right. You have to keep in mind, when you come into the world, it can be very disillusioning. So you asked me what was your exact question just now? I know, but I want to catch the word that you used.
Do you feel satisfied and happy?
Satisfied, perfect. I only feel satisfied because I have my own circle, like I said, the younger people. That's what I find my escape from that dissatisfaction of actually working as a civil engineer in the present modern day construction industry. It can be a very dirty industry. I've been offered bribes directly and all, and I have somehow, with God's grace, I've kept to my principles, and and I may have even changed some of them who have thought in that line. So this today's world, not just construction industry, I think you guys will know it too. This is your challenge. That's why we have professional bodies. Every engineering, they have an Institute of Engineers, the MMA and Medical Association. The professional bodies are supposed to protect this ethics within the professional field. But unfortunately, sadly, even within those professional bodies, there is many things questionable, because people are all, they lie, they practically self-denial. They can cook up an excuse to their own conscience and do something wrong and think it's for some benefit. So always trust your inner feeling. We have all been brought up from, good homes. Our parents have instilled things that you learned from childhood, very basic ethics. And engineering requires a lot of ethics. So I take this opportunity to remind you, it is very easy to be swayed in this modern world simply because you want to survive. You have to feed it. Maybe you don't care for yourself. Also, you will have the excuse, I have to feed my family, so I have to do something, whatever it takes. But I think differently. I've even stated to some of these fellow people, that I rather see my family go hungry than to go along with you guys, to get some money to feed them, because I believe in the spiritual side, where if you do something bad, it's a matter of time only. It'll come back, it'll hurt your family even. So try to keep this principle of ethics. That's it. I know I don't want to talk about religion and so on. I'm talking about simple professional ethics, because you all are going to be professionals in the field. And I think that's what's kept me going, actually. From my personal point, I can sleep in peace simply because I try to follow a principle. It's not very easy in the field, easily said, but the challenge is if you can keep it till the day you finish. So I think the answer is, sadly, it's not what you really think, but I'm managing. So that keeps me happy and going. Okay. I hope I answered the question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Krishnan, sharing your experience in telling your satisfaction and also your slight dissatisfaction. And we are curious about the quality. So, in your opinion, what are the specific qualities one should have in this field of engineering in terms of character and academically wise?
Okay, very good. Okay, the quality to be an engineer, okay, of course, it always starts with, to be an engineer, you must have the engineering basic knowledge, which is what you guys are starting off. Okay, we have finished school and all that. Now you're specializing and getting the advanced knowledge, particularly in whichever engineering field you're going into. A lot of people in my construction industry, especially the contractors and all, say, these all book things, man. This, in real life, you don't use all that, and then they have all these shortcuts and all that. There's an application side to everything, of course, but they fail to realize that it's all based on the foundation of academics, the one that you guys are now taking the first stepping stone to. So I don't think we should throw the theory out of the picture, because it's always theory first. Mathematics also same. Pure mathematics come first, then only applied mathematics. If you do not know your basic academic foundation thoroughly, you will face problems. But that doesn't mean in 3 years you're going to learn everything that you know. That's why the syllabus is orientated, to teach you the important parts and so on. Some of us may just learn a bit more on your own and so on, but get your foundations stable. This is an opportunity for you to learn. Once you come into the working field, it's not that easy to go back to academics and check back. You can still refer. You got your internet, but I suggest try to, while you are in this 3-year course, you try to get the best out of the academics, and that will be your foundation. And then when you come into the working field, then you will see in the application side. When you come into the application side, you will gather how the book work is slightly adjusted accordingly to suit the field work. And that also comes from experience, and that's also learning from, the whichever field that will teach you also. And that's how I think all of us know. Everybody who goes into the field, they are just starting as juniors and all. They're not as good as the senior and the experienced people, right? But all of them start with the basic academics. So the quality you ask for, first of all, should be still academics. You have to be as best as you can. Okay, but don't worry too much. If you're average at it, you will still pick it up as you go along. The other quality you need is the one that generally books don't teach you, but college teaches you. You know why? Because you guys are working with friends, and that is a very, very important part of any industry, particularly the construction industry. The key word is teamwork. You're going to work with a variety of people. Team, I don't mean just your friends and your office mates. I'm talking about even the other parties like contractors, the authorities you're going to meet, clients, subcontractors, vendors, suppliers. So your most important is your communication skills you should build up. The same thing I was trying to say, kata di bawah tempurung. The more people you meet, the more outside you come out of your shell, the better person you will become. Like I'm now just talking without preparation, anything. It's just coming out of my head, simply because I must have been mixing with the millions of people in my life. So I used to be relatively a quiet person also in the early, school days. But with time, you mix, you get your confidence, you will be able to communicate. And communication is so important, not just for yourself. It is to pass a message clearly. That's the most important part of communication. That's why language all people learn to get it correct. So it is even they don't understand you is not too bad. They misunderstand you is very, very dangerous. You get it? If they don't understand you, at least they will ask you, or but if they think they understood you, they will go and do something very dangerous. In my industry, that's why I take trouble to explain very well. And in engineering, very often we don't use words to pass the message. We use drawings, because drawings can never go wrong. So very important, we must have construction drawings. That's the start of construction. The designers, what they want, they build it on paper first, and everybody checks. Clients don't like this, they may change it. So at the end of the day, when everything works on paper, then only they give it out for people to put it on ground. So basically, you need to have teamwork, and it's built up on communication. You must be even willing to work with your enemies. You may have some people who don't like to work with, but for the sake of the project, you have to work in harmony with whoever it is. Only thing, you just have to be business-like, that's all. You don't have to hug and kiss him, right? You only need to make sure he plays his role and you pass the message accordingly, And remember again, take trouble even when you produce drawings and all. We must make sure, always I put myself in the other person's shoe. If the other person, if I can read my drawing, you have to think like the other person, how he will interpret it, you know. So that's how we must. So the checking, double checking, all this is important. You know, it's a lot more to tell you, but I put it in a gist for you. The qualities I will ask you is build a strong foundation for yourself with knowledge, because knowledge is the power, you know. If you don't get, you will never learn 100% in 3 years. This knowledge is never ending, it's a journey, you know. So keep open to that, you know, open to not just your field, other fields also, nothing to lose. The more you know, the better, you know. So that's one quality, strengthen your knowledge. The second quality is develop your teamwork. You know, you must be able to mix with people. It comes with time and experience, but go out of the way. Don't be complacent, or, you know, when I'm quiet, nobody disturb me, I'm very happy. But how long? You know, it's a matter of time, you know. You will learn from people, even the people you don't like. People may tell you wrong things, you will know how to take the right from the wrong also. This all comes by exposing yourself only, not by hiding, you know, in a shell. So I think enough said. So, and communication, of course, very important. Start developing it. The more languages, now Google all, you can learn languages already, you know. So language is something, the more you use, the better you become. You know, I even sometimes forget Tamil because long time I didn't use. So language, you must use it. So that's another communication for you. You know, you can, today we got a variety of foreigners working with us. You know, sometimes when I speak a little bit in their language, they're very happy. They feel very at home with me, you know. So that's how you break ice. So these are the little pointers I can give you. I hope I've said enough, huh? Because I don't want to go take up your time too much. Is it okay?
Yeah, sure, sure. Thank you, Mr. Krishnan, for your meaningful advice. So as we all know that nowadays competition in this field of engineering is increasing. In your opinion, is this sector still relevant for the future generation to venture into?
Oh, if you really look at the world, it's not just engineering that's competitive. I think it's nothing to do with the fields. I think the world's population is going up. You know, I think of my biology experiment of the Petri dish, you know, when you have clones, you guys are in bio also, right? You know, when bacteria colonies are formed, they count and they make a graph. And initially, they'll be very slow, then it'll increase, and then it'll slow down again. Why it slows down again is there is no more space there when too much of colonies, and there is no more food to feed the agar gel, not enough. So that is a very important part of our human lives also. With so much of population explosion, naturally there'll be jobs, people will be changed. That's why there is so much unemployment in the 21st century. Sadly, machines are replacing human beings because of the profit oriented capitalists. But so I think you shouldn't be worried about that. The answer to that is make yourself versatile. Even you are in the engineering field, okay, you think maybe your field is okay, you know, you'll find a job. But it's not about finding a job, it's about surviving. Let's put it more generally, you know. What is the guarantee? Even now, medicine also, you can see doctors are going on contract. It's not as glamorous as used to be, right? And when they open clinics, practically 3 4 door in one building, there will be 3 4 clinics there, you know. So competition, the one you are talking about, competition is there simply because population is going up, you know, and there is many after a few. Okay, but why can't you orient, what do you call that, be innovative and change according to situation? If you look at my CV, I'm living proof of adaptation. When I even started telling you I wanted to do electronics, but I switched my mind to accept civil engineering because we are a developing country. When I graduated and came in 1984, my friends, in my seniors who graduated in 83, 1 year before me, they already told me in Malaysia we are facing recession. First time Malaysia is facing recession. you don't come back, you try to get a job in England. But sadly, it was all over the world. England also, they rather take their own people than foreigners. So when I came back to the country, I couldn't get a civil engineering job because we are in recession. I even offered some of them that I will work for free, and they started laughing because I want to learn the experience, I said, and then I was forced to teach for a period of time. I thought it'll be just a few months. I started, the times were getting worse. 3 years I was teaching, but there was a purpose, I believe, because it strengthened my academics there, So then when the initial time came, when things were slowly getting better, I still couldn't get a job as an engineer. But they offered me to go to Sabah, where there is a road project. They said, if you want, you can go to Sabah, but there also you cannot work as an engineer. You have to work as a clerk of works. That means diploma level people. So we engineers were working as clerk of works there for a period of time. Then when 90s came, a boom time came, I came back to Semenanjung, and that's when I started off in the design office. And there also, it's like I said, I had to stand in for many people. So you can see I'm very adaptive. And even now at 65, now it's not easy to get, even after 60, very hard for you to get a job because they're scared you'll fall sick and all that. And the other thing is you have to keep your health. You have to eat good food, very important. You're studying hard. So I have always looked after my health. I don't smoke, all these things. So one is your body must work for you, your brain especially. Good sleep, exercise, all those things. I don't have to tell you, your parents have taught you. Now, having said that, the adaptation is what's to survive. You'll be a survivor. The cockroach is living, it's a prehistoric animal living till today because it's adapting to situations. And you look at my CV, later my resume, you will see it's a lot of adaptation there. I've switched role. And that's why I'm employed even today, because I can switch again. I'm now working for a contractor friend of mine as a project engineer. I'm working on the opposite side. All the while I've been the engineer side consultants. That means I keep an eye on the contractor. So now I am in the contractor side. I have to keep an eye on myself now. And I teach good things to my contractors. So they don't learn the bad things my contractors have learned. So you see how adaptive, that's very important. Okay. I think enough said again.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Krishnan, for your wonderful opinion. I will proceed for the next question. In your opinion, how big is the difference between the current generation of engineers and your generation of engineers, like in terms of level of effectiveness in performing tasks, in terms of machinery and programming operating skills?
Correct. It's in a way that part of the dissatisfaction I was explaining to Mr. Mithun, right? Mr. Mithun, huh?
Yes.
Sorry, I
yes,
can't
Mr.
see the name there. Mithun, huh? Mr. Mithun?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The dissatisfaction is also very sad. The young engineers today, because they are so software gadget orientated, My time, I used to calculate by myself, moment distribution, all. We have to do it manually. The best I had is a calculator, that's about it. And I do calculations as far as I've been taught mentally. So I still use where present day people I've seen even a simple multiplication or addition, they'll run for the calculator on their phone or whatever. It's a sad thing because you stop using your brain. I always say we were born with just 2 hands, 2 legs, and a brain. That's the specialty about the human species. And the brain was there and that's why we can survive better than the rest. So I think the modern generation has lost that instinct, the one that we were evolved with, So they have become so gadget oriented. It makes fiction movies like the Terminator, where the Skynet, the machines take over, something like it's becoming true. Everybody has stopped thinking, they let machines think for them. And in the engineering field, sadly, that's what is happening. The design field, they just, whatever the software gives them, they don't even analyze it, you know. My time, I've seen the change from manual to computers. So I've gone through, I'm one of the first to use computers in the field, softwares. And I know softwares can give you rubbish. It depends on how the algorithms are built, what assumptions they have taken. Because in engineering, loading, all, you must know what assumptions. Sometimes they'll say, oh, no seismic load, no, in Malaysia got no earthquake, we can ignore it, you know. In some situations, you don't have wind loads. That kind of software sometimes may just ignore those things, you know. So you have to be very careful what the software is built on. So the present generation, I think, are pretty mechanical by nature, you know. Most of them are very you touch quality. We can tell it from the drawings they produce. There will be mistakes, there will be so many things you can't afford. You give a drawing to a worker on the site, the drawing better be right. he can make mistakes if your drawing isn't correct, you know. They're not going to correct your drawing for you. So engineers need to be thorough. That's why they are always engineers to release the drawings. You know, even the draftsmen who help the engineers to draw, it's checked back by the engineers. So it's very, very important. I think I can easily answer that. I'm not being biased because I'm the older generation, but I'm the older generation observing and comparing your present generation's hasil, you know, the product with my generation's product. And the proof is, at my generation, I have not seen much collapses. In your generation, it seems to be a daily news on the internet. I rest my case. Okay.
Okay, thank you,
With due respects
Mr.
to your generation, you don't take me wrongly. Not all of them are like that. Huh?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Krishnan, for giving out your opinion.
Yes.
For the next question, when we are reviewing your resume, we were very impressed with your experience in various different projects that has been completed. So, can you tell us which project do you feel was the biggest challenge in your career?
Oh, okay. Okay, a lot of variety, but particularly I like the last one was a expressway project, the highway expressway. The one before that is my first marine project, you know, working in the sea. I mean, I don't have to live in the sea. It is in Westport, you know, Port Klang. Port Klang has the port in Port Klang is called North Port. Then from Port Klang, you go towards the Pulau Indah direction. That is the West Port. In the West Port, there are a lot of containers. Container terminals. The containers are the big containers can bring you have seen the lorry at the back of the lorry, right?
Yeah.
But the ships, they transport containers, and these ships are massive, you know. And if you see one, you really amaze you. So can you imagine why I'm telling you that is because the kind of loads that come, the weight of all that containers, all that are unloaded into the wharf, and that's the container terminal where the ships come and unload and load containers. So those things we have to put in piles inside the sea. So they use these barges. They don't use boats, you know, flat steel barges for the piling rigs and so on, you know. So there are a lot of safety things, a lot of experience, interesting experience, but I have no time to tell you here, you know. Maybe if I have another opportunity, I'll tell you. So that has been kind of, because it's not the everyday thing I have experienced on land and so on. So this has been the construction in the laut, in the sea, you know. So the main part is the foundation of the wharf, which is spun piles. They whack in piles. that the geotech part is also very interesting, because you have to understand the soil, the material that the pile's going through. It's a lot to tell you. We won't have the time to talk about that. And then the experiences you have about the tides. There is some, like you have to get information about the tides from the meteorological department. So generally the low tide takes place something like twice in 24 hours. Sometimes it'll be in 2 a.m., sometimes it's in the daylight. Yeah. So contractors may, and the tide may be only 4 hours only, it'll be low. And actual construction, like pouring concrete all in the sea, may only 2 hours they have to do it. So it's a real challenge. They cannot afford mistakes and all that. So everything is planned in advance, beautifully done. And then at the right time, at the low tide, they'll quickly finish that thing. And sometimes they may have to continue the next tide or the following day, because some things are bigger construction. So it's a lot of things. So and then the safety aspect, you have to wear your harness, the float, like when you go in on ferries and so on. So it was a kind of something different for me, but it's end of the day, it's all the same engineering knowledge that you learned only. It's just the application part, you have to know a little bit extra things and all. And I had a good set of engineers. The contractors were Muhiba Engineering, and they also learned many things from me, because I used to be a very strict resident engineer. I don't give in to nonsense and all. But they were very cooperative, and they learned from me many quality control, documentation. So even till now, we are all friends. They keep in touch with me. They offer me jobs also. So it's a lot of things. That project particularly, I was happy because even the contractors were a bit professional. So that dissatisfaction was a bit lesser there, because they used to work with me pretty well. So I think that's the answer to your question. Huh?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Krishnan.
Yes.
So for our next interview is, as we done a bit research, Malaysia has been one of the lowest country in the world for fresh graduate engineers, which is approximately to 2,000 to 2,500 ringgit of wage. So as Malaysia facing recession and it has become worse, adding fire to the fuel, facing the global pandemic COVID-19. So what is your view or your opinion towards the fresh engineering graduates in their first 5 year with low salary in Malaysia generally, and what is your advice to how to make them continue in civil engineering?
Continue in civil engineering. Okay, because I am a civil engineer, that's why you're picking civil engineering.
Yes.
Okay, I still think it's a general thing in any field. You see, again, I'm living proof for you, because I started off with a very low salary, because I started off in the recession. Okay, my teaching job paid better than engineer's job at that time. But I didn't complain, because, okay, I don't have a family to look after, maybe. I don't have family commitments and so on. So easy for me to say. As a bachelor, you can pretty well control your lifestyle and so on. Yeah. My time going by bus and all is a very normal thing. Every day affair, no big deal. Today, I think the young graduates like to live a jet set life, a car, all those things. So necessity is the mother of invention. That's a very important statement I can making to you. That means we have to learn to change our lifestyle to suit the situation. Sadly, it's not the engineering field or your capability or all. This is the capitalist world that's controlling finance all over the world. I am living proof, I said, because I started off with a very low salary, and I hardly saw an increment in my life. I only got my increment when I changed job for a better job. They offer you a better salary and you go. That's how I used to get my increment. That's why you see a lot of companies I've gone into. One is I can learn new things, but that wasn't the real intention. I only went because there's a better salary offer. And I've come back to square one. The things, what you said is correct. You young graduates without experience are getting very low salary. I am an old experienced engineer, and I've come back to the salary that I got when I started after the teaching job. When I first went into design, I started off that salary. I am now getting that salary. So I'm not saying you don't complain. You must see what is the problem. The problem is it's a capitalist world making use of all the people, and politics are behind them because businessmen have become politicians. So sadly, the riot always suffers, and it's not going to get any better. So we are not going to, like crybabies whine about it. We are better than the rest because we are an educated group, right? Okay, that's why I started this whole thing by telling you, you have to be adaptive. You have to tailor make yourself. You may study engineering, but that doesn't mean you cannot do anything else because you're an educated person. Okay, in America, they do a general degree first, then only they specialize, because they give them an all-rounded, what do you call that, potential for yourself, right? So I tell you that I am living proof for you. I'm still employed because I'm adaptive. I can switch. My bosses are surprised I can learn in a short period many things, because we are just common sense one. Huh? Learning is not all from the book. We are building up our IQ, how we can catch logic. Logic has always been my principle, my guiding force. If something doesn't make sense to me, I know it's not right. I have to find out. So I give you that same thing. You are an educated lot. Logic is the only thing you stand by, nothing else. Everything else, you call it nonsense. That's it. So salary, don't worry. Something will come, you will survive. Yeah? It's not the field you're going into. It's not. It is your capability that will decide on your salary. Okay, fields, they come and go. If people need you, economics is simply demand and supply. When there is a demand, the price will go up. When they need you badly, your salary will be better. In one company, Malaysia is bad because we don't have salary scales. In one company, one fella may be working for a long time with them, his salary may be fixed already. One new fella will come in and he will have a better salary than that guy's. Seniority, even their qualification may be more or less same. One guy got seniority and he can be drawing less salary than somebody else. There are people, the capitalists don't want to increase the starting salary because they're all businessmen, profit oriented. The money is going to their pockets, their company and so on. So we are practically modern day slaves. But you don't want to be a slave. You're an intelligent person. So what makes the difference between us and the ancient slaves is we can escape. We can throw the job and do some. I have more recently, I've started, my wife and I, we have started our own garden. If you guys are not going to give me salary, I can grow my own food. That should be attitude. You depend only on yourself, not on your employers. You are offering your services. In an interview, you shouldn't go and beg for a job. You should tell them, this is my service I'm going to provide you. This is my knowledge I have, my experience. If you don't give me the job, it's your loss, not mine. You think like that, you will do very well in life. Okay? That's it.
Thank you, sir, for your very informative answer.
Okay.
For the last question to sum up this interview, I would like to ask you, is there any advice that you can give to us, students that are pursuing an engineering course, whichever courses that may be?
All right. Okay, engineering course, as students, okay, the first thing generally will be challenging you to an engineering course is mathematics. Okay, now most of you I would think your maths would have at least an average result. You don't have to be the best student in maths. You know, people who put you for various courses, they expect you to have a certain level of mathematics. But do not fear, even deep down, only you know yourself. Even your marks, sometimes by luck, you may get something and all that. But I tell you again, it's never too late to learn. There are mathematics field, there's a mathematics field being born almost very often new fields. Mathematics is basically a tool. If you look at mathematics in depth, they actually create mathematics to solve different kinds of problems, you know. So however tedious and difficult maths looks like, at the end of the day, they are supposed to make your life easy for you. The difficult part is because you're going into you newly. It's an unknown. So unknown is always scary, you know, it can be boring, time consuming, but that's what your job is, only to learn. What you're not doing some other job, part-time job. So this is your opportunity to be patient. You have to learn slowly, take it at your own time. You can't catch up with your lecturer. Most of my teachers are not people, they're textbooks, because you can read textbook at your own pace. Teachers go very fast, you have to catch up. We go back and you learn at your own pace. The mental human brain needs that. You have to absorb things slowly. You cannot rush and do things. Okay, that's why I always tell people, students, you don't be exam orientated, marks orientated. Throw all that aside. You are here only to gather knowledge and gather it as much as you can while the sun shines, right? So I suggest maths. As an engineering student, maths is very important because a lot of things are based on that. The engineering field is an application field of mathematics. Of course, physics, other sciences come in, but maths will always be there for you. You will be learning surveying. In civil engineering, you'll be learning surveying, etc., which all trigonometry, math, basic maths only. Now, more recently, you guys are doing a lot of series and all because the computer industry has come into play, see. So they like to convert things into something plus something plus. That's a series, right? You all have experience. Some of it can be very testing. In my civil engineering, electronics is worse. They more complex numbers and all. In civil engineering itself, I have to do so many kinds of maths, Fourier series, all, because the exam syllabus requires it. But it's okay. You may not use all of it. But at the end of the day, mathematics will teach you how to think logically. That's the basis of mathematics. It teaches a human to become logical because you go step by step. Every step must be logical, then only you move on. So as engineering students, I suggest, even if you think you're weak in maths, you have an opportunity to brush it up. You don't wait for people to come. At tertiary level, you don't wait for teachers to spoon feed you. You are on your own. Teachers are only a guiding force. It's different from school days. You would have noticed that already, right? So take this opportunity to brush up and strengthen your mathematics. I promise you, it will be the foundation for your engineering. Every aspect of engineering, it will teach you. Maths will make you see things you never saw, just simply by randomly. Maths will show you this whole world is actually beautiful, planned harmony. Everything is actually very systematic. You only see randomness because you can't see the mathematics in it. So I suggest give importance to your maths as an engineering student. And then, of course, the application part, all you have to also learn. And I think you guys are luckier than me. I had a tough time finding books even in libraries. Today, you have the whole library inside your phone. So, you shouldn't complain. Okay, build up your knowledge and it will help you all the way through. And you'll get your job. The demand for you will be also greater. Your salaries may be even better. You don't have to worry. Don't be money oriented goal. Be knowledge oriented, and everything will follow. You have it, automatically your money will come, happiness will come, everything will come. So don't go think on the wrong things, you know. I mean, don't go after the wrong purpose. Stick to the foundation purposes, and everything will come with you. I promise you that. It's happened in my life. Okay.
Okay. On that note, I would like to thank you, Mr. Christian, for all you shared with us. We had a very meaningful time listening to all the lessons and advices that you gave us. I think this truly inspires us to work harder and achieve more as a student, and to motivate other students also to motivate themselves to pursue their careers. After hearing your talk, I feel that I've grown a bit more wiser and a bit more informed about the world currently. So this marks our interview for today. I would like to thank you again for sharing your knowledge with us and also your time with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My
Thank you,
pleasure.
Mr. Krishnan.
You have made
Thank you,
me
Mr.
happy
Krishnan,
by
yeah.
saying you learned from me something.
Thank you, Mr.
It
Krishnan.
was worth all this.
Yes,
All the best.
all
to
of
you,
us
huh?
have learned
Yes.
during the session. Yeah.
Thank you. All the best to you.
All right.
God bless
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you
Thank
also.
you.
Good night. Take
Good
care.
night.
Hope we'll see each other again. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night,
Bye
Mr.
bye.
Krishnan.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, sir.